Resident Evil 4.
Alright, before I get too stuck into this, in 2000, Capcom released their most ambitious Resident Evil game to date, Code Veronica, and at the time exclusive for the Dreamcast that effectively built on the series' foundations while still feeling like more of a next-gen experience. 5 years would pass till we saw what happened next after Raccoon City, and what we got was unlike anything we'd seen before. Now, to put it bluntly, while the DNA of the earlier titles is here to some degree, the series needed a fresh start to bring things up to speed for 2005. While 5 years between major titles isn't exactly a big deal now, the first 4 games were all released between 1996 and 2000. With that in mind, if they'd waited this long only to release another fixed camera classic style game, it absolutely would not have taken off the same way. I mean, I love those earlier games, the original remake is one of my favourite games of all time, but risks needed to be taken. Oh, and those risks paid off. Resident Evil 4 was released exclusively for the Gamecube and would become one of the most highly rated games of all time. The series was always popular, but now it had reached new heights never thought possible. While I was well aware of Resident Evil growing up, like many out there, this is the first game in the series that I'd owned. I haven't played it since sometime before the remake was released, and unlike other titles, I'll have to try and not let my childhood nostalgia get in the way. Now for this review, I will be playing the remaster. It's still an excellent way to play this game because it's still the same game under the hood, so let's take a look at Resident Evil 4 and see how she holds up. Alright, let's make sure we're not late for bingo.
Why am I the one who always gets the short end of the stick?
You, who are you really? Come on and tell us.
So our story begins in 2004, 6 years after the incident in Raccoon City. Since then, our guy Leon Kennedy has gotten some special training working with a secret organisation under direct control of the president. Right before accepting our new job, his daughter Ashley has gone missing and is supposedly being held by an unknown group of people out here in Spain somewhere. These local coppers hardly seem impressed by us and would rather be punching darts in the car while we move along.
We'll stay and watch the car. Don't want to get any parking tickets.
We have a quick call with Hunnigan, the lady supporting us on this mission, before heading into a house to question one of the locals. Old mate seems a bit weird, but hey, maybe it's just a European thing. Probably should have brushed up on a bit of Spanish before heading here though.
¿Qué carajo estás haciendo aquí? ¡Lárgate, cabrón!
Sorry to have bothered you.
We're gonna bugger off, but then this guy straight up tries to hit us with an axe, so we have to put him down, which goes as expected, but things outside aren't going so well. We hear a truck, and men yelling as they seem to take out the cops waiting for us outside. Hunnigan tells us to get out there and head to the village by any means necessary, which we take as permission to kill everyone we see along the way. This gives us a little taste of the action to come. Talk about a rough day at work. We make our way towards the village, saving a dog along the way and taking care of a few more locals. We scope the place out a bit and things look pretty fucked, so we choose to go in guns blazing. If these guys are anything like those last fellas, it should be easy, right? Well, a few very quickly turned into a lot, and this guy over here breaks out a chainsaw, so I guess it's on now. We get upstairs where we find an old shotgun and just start wrecking these guys. Now I'm getting cocky, but this attack seems never ending until we're interrupted by the church bell. The villagers all drop their weapons, and together everyone walks away as we're left wondering what the fuck just happened.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Yeah, I don't need to go on about it. We all know how iconic the start of this game is. Hunnigan tells us where to head next, so we get going, making sure to kill any villagers who decided to skip church. Better make sure I shoot these blue medallions as well while I'm at it. Oh, and just like when I recommend Shenmue to people, I'll say, I hope you like QTEs, because here we get slapped with the first of many when these guys try to catch us with this giant rock. Nice try, fellas. Oh, and these guys have their hands on lots of explosives. There must not be much else to play with around here. Anyway, we go into this building that we hear something knocking around in. Heading through, we find a locked wardrobe rattling around, so we get ready for some action.
Little rough, don't you think?
We untie this mysterious fella, but before we get to talking, some villagers head in with this huge guy that does not look happy. We get maybe a little too ahead of ourselves and go in with the kick, but he's having none of it, quickly putting us down for the count. Whilst we're out, we're injected with something by this weirdo over here. I guess we'll find out what's going on with that later, but for now we wake up tied to our friend here, Luis. He's an ex-cop, but he doesn't tell us much else. He overheard the villagers talking about Ashley being held at the church, which is good to know, but what's not so good is this guy coming in that I clearly didn't kill well enough, and he's not happy either. Quick thinking gets us free when he takes a swing, and we manage to sort him out for good this time. However, Luis makes a run for it, so we have to head off alone. Good thing they left my guns with me, eh? That was nice of them. While we're heading out though, we get greeted by a strange fella wanting us to follow him, and going against everything we were taught as a child, we follow the weird man in a trench coat to a secluded area.
Got something that might interest you.
Well, alright, this fella might be good company after all. We get ourselves a new toy and get going to the church, having a bit of fun along the way. There's no shortage of baddies here, and seriously, how much fucking dynamite do these guys have? Does this signpost mean more booby traps? What do we reckon? Anyway, we head up through the house where we find a key for the building in the village and overhear a conversation between a couple of the locals. We still don't know what the fuck they're saying, but when we go to sneak up closer, we're grabbed by old mate here again. He can see that whatever they injected us with is working, so he lets us go and leaves us with a message.
You carry the same blood as us, it seems. Nevertheless, you're an outsider. Just remember, if you become unpleasant to our eyes, you'll face severe consequences.
What? Same blood.
After all that, Hunnigan calls up with some intel. Apparently these fellas are part of a religious cult called Los Illuminados. No other info apart from that right now, so we move forward. These blokes really don't want us going to the church by the looks of it, and what do you know, when we finally get there, it's fucking locked, because of course it is. Carrying on, we run across the worst bridge ever made, dodge yet another giant rock, and eventually end up at the lake. Hey, looks like those fellas are chucking one of the coppers into the lake for a swim. Guess they're getting along after all. Well, wait a minute. Yeah, that may cause a few issues. Time to go fishing, I guess. We jump into this boat to get moving, but I guess old mate is still hungry, so he tries to make a meal out of us. Our anchor hooks onto him, which starts to pull us along, and this kickstarts our kinda first boss fight of the game. This one's pretty easy, you just have to dodge a bit and then throw some spears from our unlimited supply until he decides that's enough. He almost drags us down with a rope, but a quick bit of desperate knife work puts an end to that. And then we carry on our merry way. All is not well though, as we start to get sharp pains and dizziness from that really bad smack that we got before. We get into a house beside the lake before collapsing, but this shit is getting a little bit more fucked by the hour. Well, off we go. It's nighttime now, so we must have been out for a while. Now we run into this fella up the track who seems a bit ill. In fact, his fucking head comes off. These fellas are a little bit tougher when they do this, but they aren't so keen on a flashbang in sticky situations. To get through this next part, we have to get past this waterfall, which is easy enough, because when these enemies try to rush us, we just pick them off over here. It's a little unfair, really. Anyway, we head through and find what looks like this insignia thingo that will need to open the church. We're low-key strutting back, but we're stopped along the way by a group who drag out the big guns. Trust them to need extra muscle when they've got Leon Kennedy around, but this bloke's like a big guy on the footy field who's just swinging fists, not giving a fuck about friendly fire. Now, we get some backup from that dog we saved before, who shows up as a bit of a distraction. This boy's pretty spongy, but we've got enough rounds into him to jump on his back and show him who's boss. He goes down, and I guess these are automatic gates because they just open right up afterwards. These dogs don't want pats, so we rush past them and go into the church. They did pretty good keeping me out with the whole key thing, but then they really dropped the ball making this room locked with a puzzle that's just the insignia. I'd probably be making a complaint over that one. Anyway, we head on in and find Ashley, who thinks we're one of them. She's all fucking around, throwing shit, but we're able to calm her down.
Calm down. Everything's going to be just fine. My name's Leon. I'm under the president's order to rescue you.
What? My father?
That's right. And I have to get you out of here. Now come with me.
We go to leave, but we run into the big boss, Osmond Sadler. In classic bad guy fashion, he immediately tells us what his plan is, and that he has infected Ashley with a parasite and plans to send her back to the USA under his control to fuck shit up. Now, it turns out those weren't just bad drugs that we got spiked with, and will also be controlled with the same parasite.
Involuntarily, you'll do as I say. I'll have total control over your minds. Don't you think this is a revolutionary way to promulgate one's faith?
Sounds more like an alien invasion if you ask me.
This guy playing Sadler is hamming it up so fucking much, and I love it. Anyway, this shit's fucked, so we grab Ashley and make a break for it. This is going to cause a few issues, but for now we have to get out of here. Rampaging through some baddies, we get to the other side of town, however Hunnigan tells us that the helicopter she sent for us has been shot down. There will be another one sent out, but right now we're in some serious trouble, getting quickly surrounded by villagers. We run into this house ready for a fight, and are greeted by Luis, who then proceeds to put on some creepy moves on Ashley.
Small world, eh? Well, I see that the president's equipped his daughter with ballistics, too.
How rude! And I don't believe there's any relevance with my figure and my standing.
Yeah, look, we'll talk about that later, but for now, we've got to get ready for a fight. Now, this section is great. We block the windows up and hold the villagers off pretty well with the shotgun, but eventually we get overrun and need to head upstairs. Up here, we've got to worry about the ladders, while also fighting off the guys coming up the stairs. It gets hectic quickly, so we've got to be on our toes. Eventually they all get bored though and just kind of wander off. I thought that went pretty well. We make a pretty decent team with Luis, but then he also just kind of gets bored and wanders off. Alright, we'll just go fuck ourselves, I guess. After running into yet another big boy asking to get cut up, we find ourselves at another gate, but this one has some sort of retinal scanner. Now, I have a feeling I know who this might be, so we pick off a few easy ones, then head down to look for the big cheese. We tell Ashley to hide and then head on in here where we kind of just assume this fella is, and what do you know, he just happens to be waiting for us. And we don't have the strongest start, not gonna lie. We're not about to let this end like last time though, so when he goes in for the grab, we QTE our way into this classic Leon Kennedy one-liner.
Hasta luego.
Well, that's not good. We're ready for a fight this time though, and now I've got a machine gun, so this guy's gonna get it. Pretty soon we've got this guy broken in half, which you'd think would be the end of it, but nah, he reckons he can still keep going. Bet he wasn't counting on a few shotgun rounds to the face though, which looks to be the end of him. And would you look at that, his eye falls out right after. How convenient. There we go. We've got to run though, because we've got villagers hot on our tail. We run to this castle that I'm sure is super safe and lift up the bridge so these fellas will stop chasing. Pretty soon we realise though that this is where a lot of that weird cult shit goes down, and somehow they have fully working catapults and they are not afraid to use them. Good thing it's nothing a little Red 9 action doesn't solve. Oh, and this cannon that happens to be loaded helps us clear the way. How nice. Now we do get in touch with Hunnigan while we're here, but only briefly as the call is cut off, so it looks like we're on our own for now. We do run into Luis though, who knows we're infected, but he dropped the drugs he was going to give us to stop our convulsions, so he immediately just leaves to go look for that. Carrying on, I reckon it's about time we run into the owner of this joint, who gives us a lovely warm welcome.
Me llamo Ramon Salazar, the 8th Castellan of this magnificent architecture. I have been honored with the prodigious power from the great Lord Sadler.
Seriously, they just went to the next level with the villains in this game. It's fucking awesome. Now, his suggestion is that we just give up and go with the flow, before leaving with his creepy looking goons. We're rather keen on not doing that, but when we try to go ahead, the passage closes on us. We're going to need to find some animal stones to get through, which just leaves me wondering how they had this open in the first place, but it doesn't matter. We get moving to the next section. This involves us needing to turn these flames off that must cost a fortune to keep on. We grab this key, which leads us down to what I assume is this weird sex dungeon, and this guy is pissed. Or horny, I'm not sure, but he breaks free when we go to flick this switch. Luckily, he's blind, which makes things a bit easier, and with enough bullets into his back, he's down for the count. After that, we get to this fucking room, which really pissed me off as a kid. I fucking hated this section. Like, it's not that bad once you get the flow of things, but I specifically remembered this part giving me the shits. These shield guys can fuck right off. Anyway, with a bit of classy teamwork, Ashley has these platforms up and we're on our way. Oh, hey mate, what's all this? A shooting range? This is sick. How the hell did you convince them to let you rent this out? I mean, I'd love to stay, but we've got to move on. Fuck though. Jealous over here. Now, things had been going pretty smoothly, but suddenly Ashley starts coughing up blood and runs away for no reason. She then proceeds to get trapped, and now we've got to fucking sort that shit out. Good one, dipshit.
Ashley!
What's going on?
Now, Salazar's all like, yeah, get fucked. We're gonna get Ashley and you have to face some shit down in the sewers. And he wasn't kidding. There's these bugs that go all invisible and shit. It's crazy. There's a lot of them too, but hey, our trusty old Red 9 is here to help. After that, we crashed this ritual that started within the 10 minutes we were out of the room, and then deal with a guy on a fucking Gatling gun. No idea where they got this, by the way. When Salazar does pop up, he just gives a quick bad guy speech before leaving again. He's probably just assuming that everything is gonna go to plan. Spoilers, it fucking doesn't, and look at that, we're halfway there. We're not the only badass at this party though, as we're soon met with a gun to our back. We're not so keen on taking orders from a lady, it's not our style, but she insists. A quick scuffle has her gun in the air, and now the odds are in our favour. We rush with a blade, snatching the gun from her hand. Gotta say though, this lady looks awfully familiar.
Leon. Long time no see.
Ada.
Yup, Ada's back, and working with certified crook bloke, Wesker. She's not so keen on hanging around for a yarn, but I'm sure this won't be the last we see of her. Looks like she's been working with Luis to get her hands on a sample of the parasite. Sounds about right. Anyway, carrying on from here, we steal a rocket launcher for later, and then suddenly run into Luis again. Looks like he's got the sample he was after, but someone has other plans. Alright, that was pretty hardcore. This Sadler fella might be a bit more menacing than we initially thought. However, rather than pick a fight now, he's gonna leave us to that little shit Salazar. We rush to Luis, who tells us he's a researcher who was hired by Sadler. He then hands us drugs to suppress the parasite for the time being and says we must get the sample back. He passes away with the last words he hears being his name pronounced incorrectly. Luis! Come on, mate, that's worse than me. Now, it turns out Ashley was actually chained up in the same room, so we free her, then have to protect her from these guys that apparently are only just now showing up to grab her. Rather slack if you ask me. This is where we take control of Ashley for a while. We can't attack enemies head on, but trapping them is easy enough. We solve one of the better puzzles of the game, which helps us get our hands on another animal piece. We need to rush back, but unfortunately, they've decided to put parasites in armor, which we have to get around. They're big, but they're clunky, so it's not too much of a challenge. Next thing you know, we're back with Leon and ready to go. We still need one more piece though, and it looks like it's held at the end of this fucking lava room. I mean, no wonder they're trying to extort the American government for money. They seem to be more than happy to piss money up the wall on a stupid fucking lava room. Did they really think this was gonna work? We're just popping these guys off with no real hassle and take that last part, easy as you like. Find some better help next time, fellas. Anyway, animals go in, and we're off to the next area to find this little cunt Salazar. We're having to protect Ashley in some pretty dangerous areas now. These cunts are starting to mean business. Good thing I can count on these fuckers to just sweep in and straight up fly off with her. Yeah, these things are a pain in the ass, so we get out of here ASAP. At least Ashley isn't far away, but security is really ramping up now. One of these guys was already enough of a pain in the ass, but two is just ridiculous. When we do finally catch up, Salazar is waiting and he has a trap ready. He clearly doesn't know what Leon Kennedy is capable of if he thinks that's gonna work on us, and we let him know about it.
How dare you! No more games! Kill him! Kill!
Oof, looking rough, boys. Now, Salazar has sent his main goon after us, who I reckon is gonna be pretty tough, so we've gotta hurry. The elevator is out, and when we get the power back on, that's when he decides to strike. He's impossible to damage unless we freeze him temporarily with these tanks, then lay whatever we've got into him. Good thing I've got plenty of ammo, because it made this very light work. Suffer in your jocks, dickhead. Now we're down in a mine, where we found some villagers who are hardly much trouble now that we're way overpowered. Looks like they are well aware of that though, because we've got to deal with two of these big boys in another lava room. Good thing they left a conveniently sized hole for us to dump one of them into, while the other one we take care of the old-fashioned way. We end up back on the surface, but it's only temporary. Soon enough, we're down in some ancient ruins that these guys have been poking around in. They've been digging around here for a while too. This is a massive operation they've set up. They're not too happy about me being down here either. We roll on through till the section I guess they just couldn't be bothered finishing, and suddenly we have to make a jump for it. One key for us, and up we go. Shouldn't be too much further you'd think, and what the fuck is this? Seriously, they'd be able to cut their spending literally in half if they didn't go and buy all this ridiculous shit. Yeah, this is just a big arena where we've got to fight off baddies while getting these platforms to lift up. It's fairly straightforward, but then once we get going, the statue feels left out and decides it wants to come too. Jesus, talk about little man syndrome. Surely we're there now. Ah, there he is. Now, Salazar is going on about some ritual for Ashley, but we're just going to call it what it is. Terrorism.
Isn't that a popular word these days? Not to worry. We've prepared a special ritual for you.
Always loved that part. Anyway, rather than fight now, he's going to make us chase him. No worries for me, I've got enough shotgun ammo to make light work of the elevator ride up. That was all easy enough, but when we do get upstairs, Ashley is nowhere to be seen. Apparently she's been taken to some island, and now it's time for our own little ritual with Salazar. Bloody hell, mate, you sure you want to be in on this shit? After a rather dramatic build-up, Salazar looks ready to fight, but he doesn't count on my secret weapon. Yup, I've been carrying this RPG the whole time. Following that up with a couple of these and it's the easiest fight in the game. Might seem a bit cheap, but we're not here to waste time, alright? We head down to the water to pinch a boat, but it looks like Ada had the same idea and offers us a lift.
Need a ride, handsome?
Okay.
On the way to what we can only assume is the base of operations, Ada is not too impressed by us having a glance over in her direction. When we arrive on the island, she ditches us on the boat, because I guess no one wants to team up with poor Leon. Soon after we arrive, we hear Ashley screaming in the distance. She's getting carried away somewhere, but before we can catch up to her, we've got to get through these low-level goons, and a guy with a fucking minigun. Where did he even find that? This guy's tough too, but a few well-placed shots sorts him right out. The baddies on this island seem to be fucking armed to the teeth though, so watching for explosives is a must. Still dumb as rocks at least, but there's a lot of them. Come on guys, you've got guests over. Break out the fine china. Jesus, what the fuck was that bloke up to? Now, getting to a surveillance room, we see where Ashley is being held. We're close by, but we're gonna need a key to get her out. We find ourselves walking through their labs where all this heinous shit seems to be going down. Yeah, nice security system, guys. Ooh, that looks like it hurt. Looking at Luisa's notes in the lab, we read about these regenerator things that can only be killed if you destroy all the plagas on its body. I'm sure you can imagine what's coming next. See ya! Now, when these things are around, you'll know about it. The sound they make is super creepy. Anyway, we use this key to get into one of the other labs where we can upgrade it. We also get our hands on this infrared scope so we can see the plagas on the regenerators. Nice. You know what that means though. The door locks, so it's time to put this to the test. Okay, that was pretty awesome. We find Ashley, but we still need a different key to get to her, which of course this thing has, because why not? Oh, there is this radio tower we try to use, but the signal is jammed, so we're just gonna have to wing it. Excuse me. Now, finally, we can get Ashley and make a move.
Leon.
You okay? Come on, let's get out of here.
Alright, so the quickest way out of here is down the garbage pit, which is fine and dandy, but they've decided they want to leave regenerators down here. What a genius idea. We've at least got a little bit of an advantage here, so I'm not too mad about it. We've actually got a pretty good flow going on with Ashley here. She's smashing down doors, I'm fucking shit up, it's all coming up Millhouse. Hell, she can even drive. How good is this? I'm not having to do all the work this time. It was all going swimmingly until some Sunday driver got in the way. No harm done by the looks of it, but now we're back on foot and immediately run into Sadler himself. We're about ready to give this bloke the old left-right goodnight, but then we remembered that whole parasite thing. While he's got us writhing in pain, he turns to Ashley, taking control of her as she is now unable to fight off the parasite any longer. We're able to throw a tracker on her as they leave, and once we recover, we make chase, but something feels off. We're being followed. Out of nowhere, this bloke makes a surprise attack. We act fast and escape with a small cut before we see who it is.
Been a long time, comrade.
Krauser.
I died in a crash 2 years ago. Is that what they told you?
You're the one who kidnapped Ashley.
So this fella, Krauser, is an old comrade of ours and is of course after a sample of the parasite. He kidnapped Ashley to gain Sadler's trust, but like Ada, this fella is just working for Wesker. After some close calls, Krauser tries to put us down for good, but luckily Ada shows up with the assist. This gets him to bugger off for now at least, but Ada once again isn't keen on having a chat. After that, we manage to find ourselves down in the caves again, and yeah, that looks like a boss fight waiting to happen, eh? We find the tracker that we chucked on Ashley, then as expected, we get this giant fucker smashing through the wall to pick a fight. Now, this is a pretty good two-phase fight. We have to hit these buttons, then get to the next section before the last one collapses. We can't defeat this fella straight away, so it's more about dodging his attacks in the meantime. All that time getting through the QTE sections in Shenmue helped us keep our skills sharp, and soon enough, we're out of there. We always knew this guy was going to come back, but he wasn't counting on us being way overpowered for this fight. Yeah, take that, you dickhead. After brushing off some more low-level goons, we eventually run into Krauser. In order to move forward, we need to get these stone thingos for the door, 2 of which are spread out, and then the third one is of course with him. I don't think he'll hand it over if we ask nicely, so it's on. Now, the first 2 are easy enough to get our hands on, but it wouldn't be a Resident Evil game if there wasn't something fucked up going on with old mate here.
Witness the power!
With a healthy supply of ammo for the TMP and Killer 7, we're able to make light work of this battle. Wait, why am I getting an achievement for this? I've beaten him before, but whatever. With all the pieces, we're able to move on. And this is where the game ditches all its horror roots and goes completely into action territory. We find ourselves walking straight into a group of baddies waiting for a fight. We're talking crossbows, pipe bombs, RPGs, a Gatling gun, all at the ready. This looks like it's going to be a bit too hairy to make it through alone, but to our surprise, someone shows up to save the day. Oh yeah, that should make things a little bit easier. Our pilot friend here immediately gets on with the fucking up of shit, which gives us an opening through all the carnage. That's not to say all the fun is his to have, they're throwing all they've got at us here. Good thing I stockpiled a shitload of ammo so we don't have to stress too hard about the number of guys they've got. Eventually we're able to break through and open up this gate to the next area, which leads us right into another group of baddies who have us surrounded. This certainly looks pretty bad. For these guys, because in sweeps our buddy Mike to take care of the situation, and this is just fucking awesome, I'm gonna be honest. What's not so awesome though is our celebration getting interrupted. This fucker's gonna pay for this. We push forward, but our condition is getting worse. We run into Ada while we're going through it and lose control for a moment, attempting to strangle her. Luckily, a quick knife to the leg snaps us out of it. Yeah, this is bad, so we need to hurry, but instead of giving us a hand, Ada just fucks off again. I mean, who knows when we might turn again? Whatever, we make our way through some more regenerators and then one last big action area. I don't even know why these guys bother anymore. I mean, come on, haven't you all learnt yet? Anyway, we finally find Ashley being held in this big thingo, but of course Sadler is around to stop us. Our plan of taking her whether he likes it or not doesn't exactly start super strong, as he just fucking decks us straight away, but luckily Ada appears with a TMP equipped with a magical magazine. Must be getting our gear from the same guy. Now, this buys us enough time to get Ashley out, but Sadler is rather unfazed by all those bullets and is just about ready to cave our fucking heads in. We make a run for it and Ada is able to block his path so we can get away. We make our way to Luisa's research lab, which is very conveniently underguarded, and find the device that can kill the parasite.
This hunk of junk? I don't know about this, Leon.
There's only one way to find out. You operate.
Now, this procedure is rather unpleasant to say the least, but we're able to kill off both the parasites, then get ready to make our grand escape from this shithole. Something feels a bit off though, and we know Sadler isn't going to just let us leave, so we tell Ashley to hold up while we just go and suss things out. We go up to find that Sadler has gotten his hands on Ada, but the bad news for him is that he has no control over us anymore, so he no longer has the upper hand.
Better try a new trick, cause that one's getting old.
Sadler is not impressed and reckons it's about time to show us what he really is. And I've got to say, I've got plenty of questions as to where exactly he was storing that giant eye this whole time. Seriously. Don't reckon we'll get a chance to ask him either, so we better deal with the real problem at hand and see if Ada has any ideas later. Now, this boss fight is pretty awesome. We've got to down him however we see fit and then give him the old eyeball stab, which is pretty effective. We do have to keep our wits about us crossing these bridges, as they do have a habit of falling whenever they feel like. Must be hell for the staff. Anyway, when we repeat this process of stunning then eyeball stabbing a few times, Ada reckons it's a nice time for a little bit of RE2 action. We rush to make room in our inventory before putting this guy down once and for all. We grab the sample Sadler dropped, however it's about time that Ada reminds us that she's also a bad guy and has a job to do, taking the sample from us at gunpoint. Her mission is now done, so she's got a flight to catch. She makes a jump that somehow doesn't end up with her getting cut up by a helicopter, and it wouldn't be a Resident Evil game without a ticking clock, so Ada does the honours and sets off the destruction of the island, then chucks us keys to a jet ski so we can make our own daring escape. How nice is that? Could have given us a bit more than 3 minutes though, that was a bit fucking rude, and hey, those explosions are going off early, that's not fair. Ah well, we dodge some shit and then make our final jump from danger.
Ashley!
Yeah, look, landing could have been a little bit smoother, but hey, I reckon after all that, this is the least of our worries. Anyway, while the future of the parasite is unknown, we at least now have Ashley safe and can finally finish our mission.
Mission accomplished. Right, Leon?
Not quite. I still have to get you home safe.
I still have a fucking blast with this game, I'm gonna be honest. It mixes so many awesome elements together to create this really good action horror adventure. But this direction also divided a lot of fans with the series, so let's carry on and talk about my thoughts on this game. Now, taking the zombies out of a Resident Evil game is quite an interesting choice for 2005, but that's not the only major change that we'd gotten here. Well, for starters, our main villain of the series up to this point, the Umbrella Corporation, is completely finished before the events of this story even take place. What was once an unstoppable evil organization is no longer our big bad guy of the series. There are of course a lot of questions that come with that. I mean, we've got several years between events here, and they were very much still a thing for Code Veronica, obviously, but everything is essentially summarized in our brief intro before the start of the actual story.
With the whole affair gone public, the United States government issued an indefinite suspension of business decree to Umbrella. Soon its stock prices crashed, and for all intents and purposes, Umbrella was finished.
Is this a bad thing? Not really. I feel like much of this is easy to fill in, as it's obvious the company is going to run into a lot of problems being responsible for destroying an entire city. Questions would be asked, and the government would really be wanting to avoid further problems. Setting the game so close to the events of Code Veronica would have worked well if the game didn't take so long to make, but I can see why they'd want to move forward a bit so everything is not dragging along. I mean, after Code Veronica, they'd already had a remake of the first game and a prequel to said game, both of which sold okay-ish, largely thanks to the Gamecube itself. Then you've got the side games with all the Raccoon City stuff. All this together, I can see why they wanted to try something else. There are of course the original ideas they were building towards with this game, which I won't bother going into. There's other people far more qualified to talk about that stuff, but it looks like it could have been really interesting, so I recommend looking it up. Point is, we've basically got a launching point here for new fans to latch onto that doesn't require a whole lot of context to understand what is happening right now in this moment. For it being so long between drinks, with a game that rebuilds the gameplay, this is a smart choice. When it comes to settings, the series was good at building on each previous title, with maybe 3 being the exception there. This is of course not the first time that they've gone out of the United States, but the move to Spain was a pretty bold choice. This made things unpredictable, and that's a risk they needed to take. A big part of what works with Resident Evil is the isolation. You won't have a safe way out of the horror, and here they nail it. Now we're in a totally foreign location. The locals speak a completely different language, so communication's gotta be tough. The guys here to help aren't exactly taking things very seriously either, so it's a recipe for disaster. Leon is basically in his first day on the job situation here again, but now he's a certified badass that can fuck shit up as need be. No more are we a rookie cop dealing with unspeakable horrors for the first time. We can take on multiple enemies at once now.
Well, I really don't give a damn. Rain or shine, you're going down.
Yeah, Leon is fucking awesome in this game. He is one of the most iconic characters in gaming because of just how good they pull off the character here. Of course he's great in other games, but this is the one. I still get an absolute kick out of this Leon. Ada too, I think bringing her in for this one was a great choice. At the time we knew Wesker was floating around and would eventually be back, but Ada floating into the story, while maybe not super surprising, was a nice little twist for the story. The Leon-Ada dynamic is very funny. While they're very much not on the same side in any way, you won't see them actively trying to harm each other during the mission. Even when Leon attacks Ada, she doesn't go for the kill, and when it comes to the sample, she could just shoot him and take it, but she doesn't.
Sorry, Leon. Hand it over.
Ada, you do know what this is.
Our whole point for being here, Ashley, is perfectly fine. I mean, she's very much created as a vulnerable person who needs a Chad like Leon to come to the rescue. Otherwise, we'd have no game. I don't find her annoying or anything. If anything, I think a lot of the scenes are quite good with her, but in the end, despite being the whole reason we're in this rural part of Spain, she's one of the weaker characters here. Now, Luis, on the other hand, is an interesting one. He gets a bit of time with us in cutscenes, but is also fleshed out more in the notes that you find around the traps. They play into the whole suave ladies' man thing, which is silly, but it's funny when it totally falls flat on Ashley. Him being a researcher hired by Sadler, who he is obviously turned on, opens up questions, and then there's some involvement with Ada, which also brings up questions. He's obviously looking out for us, but he's not exactly a saint getting involved in this in the first place. I feel he probably could have been used a bit more to explain things more deeply. I mean, he kind of just keeps running off, and then suddenly he'll appear only to be killed immediately. It's a little cheap, but then at the same time, it gives a glimpse as to how dangerous Sadler is.
Now that I have the sample, you serve me no purpose.
Yeah, the villains in this game? Fucking awesome. Our big boss, Lord Sadler, is just fantastic. His whole thing for world domination is just pure bad guy stuff. Uncovering the Los Plagas and being able to manipulate people's minds into following your orders is so out there compared to what we've gotten before, but it works so well. This guy, being the leader of this cult that has amassed quite a sizable number of followers, is not immediately all that threatening, but his calmness gives a hint to his danger. He has exactly what he needs from his followers, blind devotion, and that's where the true terror comes in. The parasite is basically our new T-virus here, and it's similar in that it doesn't take over immediately, however the end result is far different. You won't die and come back to life, you'll become a slave to this guy, and that makes you wonder just how aware these people would be.
Oh, there's going to be one hell of a party when she returns home to her loving father. But before that, I thought I might bargain with the president for some donation.
With that said, it's not just all mindless goons. Our different bad guys are infected but with the dominant species Plaga, meaning they have control over their actions. Our first big bad guy, Father Mendez, is one of those guys. He's far more head-on with us, he'll attack, but he's ultimately waiting for us to be taken over, until that point where we're causing too much trouble to just let wander around any longer. Great first impression to our group of higher-ups. Salazar, on the other hand, is very much into the idea of letting others clean up the mess, and when you see what he eventually becomes, I can see why. It's probably hard to go back to normal after turning into whatever the fuck that is. His bodyguards are fucking cool though. You know you're gonna have to fight at least one of these things at some point, and when you finally do, it lives up to the hype. They're fucking terrifying. The odd one out here is Krauser, who had apparently been a comrade of Leon's at some stage and is another guy that is trying to mess around behind Sadler's back. He's of course responsible for kidnapping Ashley and is infected, but is ultimately working for Wesker. The background stuff with Leon really could have been expanded on more. He's kind of just thrown in, and while Leon knows him, we don't really get much to explain at all. He's shown earlier on than what I put in the story section, but you don't really get anything from that other than the introduction of another bad guy that's going to come along and try to kill us. That's something they tried to show a little more at the start of the remake. As much as I like the remake though, I think for the pure fun factor, so much of the charm here still wins me over. The voice acting was such a step up compared to what we'd had before, and the actors are clearly having so much fun with their roles. I felt some parts in the remake definitely fell flat in comparison, especially with the villains, because the cheesiness is just what makes this stuff so great. I know they improved some stuff with getting the Spanish more accurate, and I like a lot of the changes for different reasons, but this is B-movie goodness all over.
She really pushed it.
Here, catch. Better get a move on. See you around.
Enough about the characters though, let's talk about how fucking awesome this game looks. While this is of course a remaster, it is still very much a GameCube game under the hood. Textures and resolution have been brought up to HD standards, but rather than rebuilding everything like a lot of semi-remakes do, we've got a faithful release here. What that means though is that while a lot of great details of the game are shown, you will also catch bits and pieces that show what limitations they were working with back in 2005. It's more charming to see rather than jarring, as at the end of the day, this isn't a remake, but I did run into a couple of weird things to pick at throughout, like why is this freaking out during a cutscene, or why is the reload animation with a rifle just a bit janky? These are just a couple of examples with this version. It's pretty minor shit, otherwise you'll more just be looking at effects that would have been masked a bit better in 480p, or 480i if you're here in PAL land. Why did Nintendo fuck that up? Anyway, brushing all that aside, we've got a really good looking game here. Capcom may have been going through delays and scrapped ideas, but they didn't put out something half-assed. This is one of the best looking games from the era. Being released 5 years after the last sequel, we've got some massive improvements with the character models. While Code Veronica was an incredible looking game for 2000, this just went to the next level. There's so much more added detail, and it's not just in cutscenes, everything close up looks fantastic. Also, we've got head pops, and they look better than ever, especially when the Parasite makes an appearance. This game isn't super gory like what we'd get in later titles, but what we've got, while clearly a little bit limited, has never looked better up to this point. The Navistadors are at times a little bit annoying, but they really look cool and are a fresh addition with their cloaking ability. Really, I'd say the best time to face these things is the first time. The tension is excellent. While the Chainsaw Guy is probably the most famous enemy from this game, the most terrifying is the Regenerator. These fuckers are so cool. Just hearing them in the room lets you know you're in for a bad time if one gets close to you. If you decide to take one of these things on, you'll be able to get the gory mess you're hoping for. Unlike other enemies, these things will have chunks blow away as you shoot them, and it makes it super satisfying when you do finish one off. A huge change here is almost all cutscenes being in-engine, so we don't cut between something pre-rendered that looks noticeably different to what's in the game, then back to a less detailed version. It's all here. Obviously a lot of old tricks would still be used with cutscenes back then, but seeing the transformations of the bosses happen in-engine is pretty awesome and is no longer at risk of being too distracting. When it comes to the environments, they've got a feeling like nothing we'd seen in the series before. Being a completely new setting, they were able to start fresh, and it's pulled off excellently. Things feel old and run down in the village, the castle areas feel suitably creepy, and while we've got the lab areas as expected, these aren't Umbrella labs, so instead of things being at least recently cleaned, it's all kinda just a bit fucked up. With that said, I do think certain aspects were maybe pulled off a little bit better with Code Veronica. While this is a technically more impressive game, I liked the dark dinginess from that game a bit more. Sections in Code Veronica often felt a bit more lived in, but the areas here can be far bigger between loading screens, so they'll feel a bit emptier. That's your trade-off really, so when you get to smaller areas, they can focus on the smaller details at least. This game does do some cool stuff with lighting, but I also tend to prefer how Code Veronica uses darkness and fog in areas. Some of the flatness here may be due to the remaster though, whereas Code Veronica, I used an old copy. One thing this clearly excels at though is sound design, which is a huge step up. That and the music here is awesome, especially the save room music. How could you not love that shit? Now the gameplay has been almost completely redesigned, but some elements are still there. The main thing that has stayed is of course tank controls, which is crazy to think about in 2005, but they stuck to their guns and kept a series staple. Even the Outbreak games got rid of them, but nah, we're still tanking here. This means that movement is heavily restrictive for an action game, which you would think is a warning sign for some shit gameplay, but it is so well implemented you'll get settled in no time. Really, it controls a lot like these games always have, it's just that the camera position has changed. The game is entirely built around the limitations of the movement and rarely feels broken like earlier titles could sometimes. I'll jump straight into the combat here and say yes, it's a bit clunky, but the action in this game is super fun and pulling off moves is very satisfying. The way the enemies move within a close distance means that the game doesn't feel like it's cheating. Often you're given the opportunity to create space so you won't consistently be rushed from behind. Aiming and firing the weapons has never been more satisfying. The details of the models are incredible, and the reload animations are amazing. I was blown away by this back in the day, and still now I can see just how good it all was. We're given more open areas this time around, but this isn't leaning more into horror with some action sprinkled in anymore. We're dealing with far more trouble this time around. Like a more standard action game, you'll find yourself wandering into a fair few arenas now. Is this all super fun? Hell yes. Does it feel like a classic Resident Evil game? At times yes, but very much no most of the time. The action moves are pretty far removed from what you'd expect, but the new shooting style definitely feels like it was meant for something more horror driven. Like, there's a natural progression here in parts, then it's taken to the extreme. Things like boss fights are tighter and fit far more into the feel of the classic games than, say, taking on a room full of dudes wielding weapons and shields. The game does go full Shenmue with the QTEs though, but these are far less forgiving at times. I've suffered enough through a mushy Dreamcast D-pad to not be too phased here, and overall I tend to like QTEs if they're satisfying to pull off.
The sample Sadler developed, that's all.
Leave Ashley out of this!
One thing that is firmly set in the old design is a certain aspect of the inventory, more specifically that you must pause to change anything. We don't get quick access here. It both works perfectly fine and also feels like it maybe breaks the pacing in heavy action parts. We've got no item box to speak of anymore, so everything is arranged here, which is incredibly satisfying, and I feel the way it's implemented has never quite been done as well since. The knife no longer takes up a slot too, which means I now don't have to drop that immediately at the start of the game. I've never been one to use it, but here I might actually pull it out from time to time. You will have to worry about the insane amount of shit you pick up over time though, but never fear because you can upgrade the case size through Old Mate here. Our friend the merchant here is quite the hero and is happy to sell us all kinds of wares. Throughout the game, enemies now drop either money or items like ammo, grenades, etc. You'll also be able to find lots of treasures, some of which can be combined together to make something more valuable. All of this can be used for trading with our good friend here, and he's got quite the impressive arsenal. It is silly, yeah, fuck yeah it's silly, but it's also awesome. The amount of guns in this game will keep you happy, and once you pick up some favourites, you'll want to upgrade them all the way. While the upgrades don't make the weapons look any different, there are a couple of attachments that will, like stocks or scopes, and these are certainly worth picking up, especially the Red 9 stock. The merchant will occasionally have a shooting range that you can check out, which is fun for a little bit of arcade action, but I really didn't spend much time with these on this run. You can unlock these caps for doing good though. One thing I spent far more time on was digging around for all the treasures, which you can buy maps to help you out with. You will also find a lot of notes lying around, but one thing that's very different is that ammo is now very plentiful, so that stress is gone. Another stress that's gone is the puzzles getting you stuck. They are mostly far more simplified now, but still fun. I always loved tackling the puzzles in any Resident Evil game, so while these are very easy, you won't find me complaining too much. Another thing that I don't really complain about is protecting Ashley, which is something some people have been bitching about for over 20 years now. Yes, it's super easy for her to cause a game over screen, either by getting killed or dragged away, but it's not a deal breaker. Most of the time she's easy to protect, and the game is so generous with checkpoints that it doesn't really matter if you fuck something up. Given that this had to be in the game given the whole plot revolving around her, I'd say they designed the mechanics around her rather well. What do we get for rescuing Ashley? Quite a bit actually. For starters, we've got a New Game Plus, allowing us to have all of our stuff from the end of our last playthrough, as well as a couple of costumes to choose from. I don't have all the unlockables, and I generally just stick to vanilla playthroughs, but for a bit of fun there's also some extra weapons to choose from, if you want some total carnage. If this ain't your thing though, we've got plenty more. The Mercenaries minigame is back, and better than ever. I don't play these modes a lot, but I definitely have fun when I decide to jump in. This is just total chaos, and you'll get sucked right in trying to beat your score. The last of the GameCube extras is Assignment Ada, which is a non-canon bonus story where you have to collect samples for Wesker. This is alright, but it's not as good as what we got on the PS2. Separate ways. This one is canon and was at the time exclusive to the PS2 release. I played this one heaps back in the day. It's great following alongside the main story as Ada and helping shape events throughout. There's no shortage of value for money here. We've got a main story that'll last over 12 hours if you take your time, then all the extra time you'll spend on these extra modes. There's so much fun to be had here. With that in mind, I better wrap this one up. This game has held such a high reputation for all these years for good reason. It's incredible. And while it may largely falter as a Resident Evil game by classic standards, it's a very important piece in shaping what would come with the series. Whether that is good or bad is down to preference. I'm happy to embrace a lot of the action elements, but I also want my fix of survival horror whenever I can get it. I still have a great time with this game, but I can see why some fans of the series speak heavily against it. Judging it for what it is, rather than comparing it to what came before it, we've got one of the most well-polished action games of the era, with a great story and a genuinely creepy vibe to go along with it. I don't expect everyone to get past the tank controls these days, but for me, this is one of the greatest games ever made. It gets a 10 out of 10. The remake is great too, but I really loved coming back to this after a couple years. Anyway, that's all from me today. I'll catch you next time.
So, who was that woman anyway?
Why do you ask?
Come on, tell me.
She's like a part of me I can't let go.
Let's leave it at that.